ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, that's an official act in order to SEAL Team 6?
He would have to be and would speedily be, impeached and convicted before the criminal prosecution.
What if he weren't? There would be no criminal prosecution, no criminal liability for that?
Chief Justice's opinion in Marbury against Madison and our constitutional tradition and the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause all clearly presuppose that what the founders were concerned about was not.
I asked you a yes or no question. Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first. And
so your answer is
no. My answer is qualified yes. There's a political process that would have to occur under the structure of our Constitution, which would require impeachment and conviction by the Senate. In these exceptional cases, as the OLC memo itself points out from the Department of Justice, you'd expect a speedy impeachment and conviction. But what the founders were much more worried about than using criminal prosecution to discipline presidents was what James Madison calls in Federalist Number 47, the newfangled and artificial treasons. They were much more concerned about the abuse of the criminal process for political purposes to disable the presidency from factions and political opponents. And of course, that's exactly what we see in this case.
I've asked you a series of hypotheticals about criminal actions that could be taken by a president and could be considered official acts. And I've asked you, would such a president be subject to criminal prosecution if he's not impeached or convicted? And your answer, your yes or no answer is no.
I believe I said qualified yes if he's impeached and convicted first.
My question was, okay, so he's not impeached or convicted. Let's put that aside. You're saying a president could sell pardons, could sell military secrets, could order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival.
Sale of military secrets strikes me as something that might not be held to be an official act. The sale of pardons is something that's come up historically and was not prosecuted.
But your brief says that communicating with an executive branch agency is an official act. And communicating with a foreign government is an official act. That's what presidents do.
They're very strong situations. Those are very strong examples of potential official acts. If you look at what Chief Justice Mitchell said against Madison, he said, rising directly under Article 2, Section 1, that the courts, that the president's official acts are, quote, never examinable by the courts. And he says it like 4 different times on pages 164 to 166.
Well, let me ask you about that then, counsel, because your position is, as I understand it, if a president is impeached and convicted by Congress, then he is subject to criminal prosecution, correct?
Yeah, be it necessary, said to prosecution.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, so therefore he's not completely and absolutely immune, because under the procedure that you concede, he can be prosecuted if there's an impeachment and conviction by the Senate.
Very, very formidable structural check against the astonishing and radical action of prosecuting a former president with official acts.
Right, but you're conceding that presidents can be criminally prosecuted under certain circumstances.
Specifically, if they're impeached and convicted, I think that's the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause.
And isn't that also a concession that a president can be criminally prosecuted for an official act? Because presidents can be impeached for official acts.
Under those unique circumstances.
Correct. But given that you're conceding that presidents can be criminally prosecuted under certain circumstances, doesn't that narrow the issues before us to can a president be impeached? Can a president be prosecuted without first being impeached and convicted? All of your other arguments seem to fall away. Your separation of powers arguments fall away. Your policy arguments fall away if you concede that a president can be criminally prosecuted under some circumstances.
This is Donald Trump's attorney arguing in front of the D.C. Court of Appeals as part of his appeal in the D.C. prosecution, which has been put on hold pending a decision on the question of whether Trump acted with immunity given his former role as president. And I can say with a pretty good deal of certainty that this isn't going to fly with these appeal court judges. Now, Trump's lawyer is arguing here that even if a president has his political rival assassinated, the only way that he or she could face criminal prosecution is if there's an impeachment and conviction in the Senate first. And if there's not an impeachment and a conviction in the Senate, then that person has carte blanche to straight up murder someone. If that sounds fucking insane, That's because it's fucking insane. Now, first off, this is an imaginary standard. The notion that a president is above the law unless he or she is convicted and impeached is not mandated anywhere. It is what the Trump team arbitrarily landed on only because he escaped conviction in the Senate, and so it offers a convenient out for him. But no, it is not prescribed in the US Constitution that a president is above the law unless he's impeached and convicted. And the fact that this attorney can stand in a courtroom and suggest that the Constitution doesn't apply to one person, that we have something akin to a king in this country, really offers some telling insight into the power that Trump believes he has and that he's trying to consolidate for himself again. Second, think about the implications of making the standard that a president needs impeachment and conviction in the Senate. That means that so long as there are 1/3 of the senators plus one who are closely enough aligned with the president that he can do anything. That he can have his political rivals assassinated. He can sell military secrets and pardons and federal property. He could enrich himself at the hands of foreign governments. He could murder civilians. And so long as 34 people are under his thumb in the Senate, it's all good. I don't think you have to be a constitutional scholar to recognize that that's probably not what the founders envisioned when they were crafting the Constitution after leaving a monarchy, no less. And lastly, notice how Trump's attorney tries to suggest that anything a president does, including having his own political rival assassinated, isn't subject to prosecution unless he's impeached first, because the founders were very concerned about exploiting the criminal justice system against politicians. But he ignores the fact that a president is only covered when performing official duties. Having a political rival assassinated isn't an official duty. So why in the world would he be covered by these broad processes, made up processes, as I explained before, when he's not even acting in furtherance of his oath of office? He wouldn't, and of course Trump's lawyer knows that, but he has to pretend that everything a president does in office is an official act, because if he concedes that there are exceptions, then it becomes obvious that inciting an insurrection is also an exception, and therefore exempt from this broad claim of immunity, which of course he won't do because it would sink Donald Trump's case. And of course, therein lies the problem. What Trump did was so obviously disqualifying that his lawyers are now dealing with the impossible task of making anything and everything a president does seem as if it's an official act. The dude literally has to stand there and pretend that murder, that assassination is legal so long as the president does it. That's how disqualifying insurrection is, that the only way it seems acceptable is if literally everything is acceptable. Which of course is nonsense, given that insurrection is so disqualifying, it's literally singled out in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution as one of the 3 disqualifying factors for a president running for office. The Constitution doesn't mention anything other than age, birth status, and insurrection. You can literally run for president from prison as a convicted felon. Even that is okay as far as the Constitution is concerned. But insurrection is so disqualifying that it's listed in the US Constitution. So the only way to suddenly make it seem acceptable is if everything is acceptable, even assassinating political rivals, which again is as ridiculous as it is dangerous. So while I can't predict the future, I'd say it's a pretty safe bet that the appeals court judges will rule against the insane immunity argument, at which point it will be appealed to the US Supreme Court. And I would hope that the US Supreme Court, even with its conservative 6-3 composition, would recognize the unique danger in ruling that a president has full immunity to do whatever he wants while in office. It would essentially relegate the US to a dictatorship by removing any consequences for a president who believes that he has total power. And that's a point that Mark Elias drove into perfectly.
I mean, that if they rule in his favor on the immunity case, then honestly, we have just created a dictatorship. Because if presidents enjoy immunity from the law, like I said, I mean, Joe Biden could simply cancel the elections. He could simply say, I'm not leaving office, right? Because there's nothing you can do. There's no remedy for anything that any president does, no matter how outrageous. Now, no one thinks that that's going to be the outcome. I think that Donald Trump doesn't even think he's going to win the immunity case. I think Donald Trump thinks he's going to delay his criminal trial and avoid facing trial in Washington, D.C. before the election, because he then thinks he can pardon himself or whatever if he gets elected. So I think Donald Trump is on the immunity case, is a cornered animal who is a scared animal. He is scared of going to trial in Washington, D.C., as he should, because if he faces a jury of his peers in Washington, D.C. on the evidence that Jack Smith has, he's going to get convicted and he's going to face prison time.
And of course, to see more episodes of our series Democracy Watch, make sure to subscribe to this channel. So hopefully we have not only a fast resolution so that Trump's DC trial can resume, but a proper resolution at the hands of both the appeals court and the US Supreme Court that makes clear that in the United States of America, No one is above the law. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.
If it makes you feel any better, I have already put evac on alert. He's ready to go if it comes to that. General, I can assure you.
Hey, General, let me into the war room to see you, so I had to hack my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Wheelie.
Sir, come on, what is it now, please? Okay, couple of things. I'm running low on the dough. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah. I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I was so damn weird, good on me, let us know.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
This was just a diversion. Security, please bring up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We are facing a heavy sustained attack. They appear to be after the Allspark. General! General! We need this evac immediately. Evac immediately.